Hello, I'm Island Emery, right here on the 9 with the president of Pilikikena, Auntie Dorinda Burnet of Las Vegas Hawaiian Civic Club. How's Auntie? How you doing?
Hi, aloha. Aloha,
Hello.
yes.
Oh
I am
man,
the
you know what?
Pelikikena for Las
Yes,
Vegas Hawaiian Civic Club.
yes. You know, it's always a joy because you know you've joined me so many Sundays on the on the FM show and giving us a daily olelo. I just want to kind of let the audience know a little bit of background on you. You know, you obviously you're originally from Hawaii. What part of Hawaii?
I was born in Makali back in 1958. We moved to Eva Beach in 1964. I became a student of Kamehameha in my kindergarten year. We moved to Waipahu in 1966 and lived in Waipahu until probably about 1980. Um, I graduated from Kamehameha in 76. I got married in first time in 78. Because I was a Kamehameha lifer, I was fortunate enough to be around the legends that were at Kamehameha at the time, like Auntie Nona Beamer, Dr. Donald Mitchell. You know, these people are now legends. They're no longer here, but you know, I pretty much sponged all the cultural things I could from them. And one of the things they always told me is, the reason I am sharing this with you is because I want you to share it. Because when our culture, when you share our culture, it lives. And so it's become almost like my life mantra to share our culture wherever I go. In 1978, I was the hula bowl queen for the state of Hawaii. In 1983, I was a mo'i wahine, which is aloha wee queen for the city and county of Honolulu. And in 1984, my first marriage fell apart. And in 86, I moved to California and lived there for 7 years and moved here with my current husband in 1993. And so we've been in Las Vegas for 27 years now. We brought 3 children with us. I had 2 from a prior marriage. We have 1 together, and then he has 2 boys that live in San Jose area from his first marriage. So we raised our 3 kids here, and you know, Vegas has not always been an easy town to live in. There's too many temptations, and of course, I succumbed to a lot of them. But then, you know, you go ahead and fix your crown, and you go ahead and get your act together, and you either sink or swim here. That's how it is. But along the way, I've met a number of people that, again, have been very influential in my life. And although I knew of the Hawaiian Civic Club back then, when we moved here in 93, it didn't have a really good reputation. And so I kind of stayed in the background with it. I was never active. But in 2012, I became involved with the club through Pa'ahana Bisson, who was the current president at the time. I was in and out with some of my classmates, but you know, I was never really active in the club. And then in 2013, when my mama passed away, Auntie Joanne Hanawahine was instrumental in telling me, no, you have to have a celebration of life for her, even though no one knew her here. But the people who cooked for her celebration never knew her, but knew me, were all Hawaiian Civic Club members. And at that time, I became very humbled by it, and I said, well, let's take a look at this again. And as soon as I got my feet wet within the club, and I went up the ranks of the club, the hierarchy of the club, through board member to executive committee to the president in 1980. In 2016, I became the president. And there was a lot of things that needed to be done in the club in order to clean up our image and our reputation. And I pretty much took my boots off and rolled up my sleeves and said, okay, what we got to do? And slowly but surely, 4 years later, is where the club is today. And it's much stronger footing based on the teachings that I have from my kupuna. And I always refer back to them because I hear them all the time. and they tell me, you go, girl, you're doing it, because you're doing it not for you, but you're doing it for our community, and you're doing it for the future generation. And so that has always been a real strong motivator for me. And in doing that, along the way, I met some really great people. You know, I lost some friendships too. You know, it's a learning process like anything else. One of them that I met was Auntie Rosita Lee. Ironically, I met her in 1994 when my daughter danced for her at Imperial Palace at the time at the Hot Hawaiian Luau shows. And ironically, in 2000, I would say 2019, when she found out that we had put a resolution on the floor of the Association of Hawaiian Civic Clubs to build the cultural center here, she pretty much said, hey, that's what we wanted to do within the Asian American Pacific Islander.
Right.
So why don't we go ahead and, you know, work together on this? And I was part of the original, there were 8 of us, and Auntie Rosita was number 9, that we went and we lobbied various commissioners and finding out what their needs were and what they wanted from us and how we could work together on it. And in October of 2019, I was appointed at one of those positions. So I represent all Native Hawaiians and Polynesians, Pacific Islanders. Now, there are 15 different commissioners, community commissioners is what we are, and we represent all the different gamuts of Pacific Islanders within the Pacific Ocean. So anywhere from Philippines to Japan to East Indies to Afghanistan to the Pacific, Southern Pacific, which is where I represent Native Hawaiian and, all of our Polynesian races. So I take that responsibility, that kuleana, very, it's a big commitment for me to go ahead and make sure that our representation is always there. And I try to do that in every aspect. And of course, they call me for, oh, you guys know where we can get lei, or we can get this kind of food or that kind of food. Everybody loves Hawaiian food. Yes. And, we have the flavors of everything else in there, so it makes it very tasty. Yes.
So, Andy, I mean, when you moved to California, were there any other civic clubs or any organizations out there that were helping out the community, Pacific Islanders?
Of course. Okay. Because I was a hula dancer, back in Hawaii, I missed dancing. Okay. So I formed one. It was called the Tiki Experience. And it was based on explorations at Kamehameha, because I was a dorm 8 there and I was a program coordinator there, so I've had these different experiences in my life. And because I knew a lot of the culture that is still represented there, I taught it on a small scale. But more importantly, I became part of the Hawaii Club of Central California. And one of the members there was, ironically, the Akana family, which includes Nick Akana, who now lives here, and his sister Lori Akana, and their parents, John and Esther Akana. They pretty much hanai'd us because we were younger than them. Okay, so they were our first Hawaiian family that we got to know quite well. They lived in Ivanhoe, we lived in Fresno, and we stayed there for 7 years, and we got in touch with one another. Now, when Nick decided to move here, was when he asked me, Auntie, you know anybody in Las Vegas? Who did I know? Wayne Ponoki. I knew him from back home. So he was part of the Hawaiian Civic Club back then with Wayne Ponoki. Small world, huh?
Yeah, small world. I remember Uncle Wayne when we moved here. So, yeah, my mother danced for his danced with his crew out here, and then kind of grew from there. And then the organization, Las Vegas Hawaiian Civic Club, kind of surrounded them and the hula troupe, and rightfully so. Then you can see how the build of the community, it just started growing. Especially when you start partying together, right?
Oh yeah, everybody know everybody.
yeah, potluck and stuff like that. Now now in Northern California or Fresno, what was the Hawaiian community? Was it large or was it just fairly new?
In the 90s here?
In Fresno.
In Fresno.
Yeah.
It wasn't as big as you would think. I'm sure it's bigger now. You know, it's been a number of years since we've been in Fresno. When we left there in '93, we never went back.
Okay.
Okay. But we have gone back to Visalia to go see the Akanas. We have gone back and seen them there. But in order, we just pretty much stayed here in Vegas. Like how I said, those first years in Vegas was not easy on us. What we did do was through Nick Akana, we met, everybody called her Tutu, okay? Audrey DeCaris is her name. And Auntie Audrey, well, we called her Tutu. She had, she raised two girls up here. By the time we met her, she was a widow. And she got me into CCSD. So, you know, Auntie Tutu was there for us. The Fotus are part of her family. You know, what Tutu did was she was the one who gave the list of Hawaiians that first lived here to Sam Boyd. So she personally knew Sam Boyd. And I remember meeting him once, and he had a lot of aloha for our community. Okay. Over the years, Boyd Gaming had some goods and bads with the Hawaiian Civic Club. You know, it was just who was the administration and who was in charge corporate wise at Boyd Gaming. Before the pandemic hit, we were just mending all of that again. And so they wanted a strong relationship with us because the Mainland Council, or the Association of Hawaiian Civic Clubs, prefers using their venue to have our mandatory Mainland Council meeting every February. We did it last year and we did it the year before there, and they loved having us there. So it's a relationship that now we're beginning to grow back to, which is a good thing because, you know, they provide service to our family members that come over. You know, everybody wants to stay at the Cal, or you never know who you will run into at the Cal, you know, during those wild times. I mean, I met my grandmother in there. True story. I met her back in '83 and she went, "Hey, baby, what you doing here? You know, what did you read?" You know, just like any other kupuna would say, "What is you? You know, you gotta go home. You gotta be in here." And I was in there to buy seed. True story. So, you know, you never know who you would run into at the Cal. And now that our community is so large, you know, we found that the Hawaiian Civic Club with Ho'olaulea, we've become like the catalyst of referrals. Oh, Auntie, where can I find this? Where can I find that? Do you know a lawyer that would help us with some deeds that we have for family property back on Kauai? You know, I've had calls like that. Or, Auntie, I cannot pay my rent this month because of this and that. Do you know a charitable organization that can help me out? Or, we no more food this month. Can you help me? You know, you never know. But again, our position with the Las Vegas Hawaiian Civic Club, it is one of our mission statements is we have to be of service to our community. And that was one of the things that, you know, wasn't practiced in the past and led to ill feelings with a lot of people. And under my administration, that's probably what I'm most proud of, is that we were able to restore that. And now the club is flourishing. You know, one of the things that people don't understand is they say, "Oh, no, when you old is when you join the Hawaiian Civic Club." No, 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 no. You've heard that, I've heard that, you know. "Oh, no,
Yes.
Auntie, when I retire, then I join you." No, no, no. You do it now because on the other spectrum, you have the other kids that are raised up here that come to me and say, "Oh, Auntie, can you teach me how to be Hawaiian?" You know, it breaks my heart when you hear stories like that because then you're thinking, okay, where's your parents? Number one, right?
Yeah.
Second, is it too hard for your parents to remember the things that they grew up with in order to share that with you? So if that means we have to go ahead and malama one another and remind one another why we are here. We're here for economic purposes only. Where do we go when we want to go on vacation? We go back home.
Right.
Right?
Everyone
And then 2 weeks of living being at home and loving the family and going grave and, doing all those things. When you go to a grocery store and you walk out with one bag of groceries and $80 later, then you go, whoa, you know? So, and there's another part that, my family back home tell me. They say, oh, cousin, you got real holy. I said, no, I didn't get holy. You think I got holy. I'm just more aggressive than you are. Which brings up another point, okay? Those of us who live here, we have to fight for our airspace. And we've learned how to do it here on America, right? On the mainland.
Yeah.
But when we go back home, we don't have to do that. When we go ahead and, because I get aggressive, to tell you the truth, you give me 3 weeks and I start getting aggressive. And it's not that I have island fever, it's just things move so slowly back home that I get impatient with it. So again, my aggressiveness comes out. And my cousin told me, he said, cuz you changed, not us. So we have to be respectful of that, so.
Well, now you're up here in Las Vegas. You're taking the president position, and I know as being president, you've kind of you've dealt a lot of obstacles. How do you, keep on top of everything that you do? As you said, the organization is growing. And then I know it was like at one point it was like maybe 50 people at most. Now
Right.
I don't know what the count is now, but like you said, it was like all older, kapunas that belong to your organization. But now I do see some younger influence in there. Also new ideas. Now it's been brought to almost like a standstill, and I don't see anything going on because of the pandemic and stuff, and things are getting canceled, and everything is turning into virtual, meetings, conferences, or even conventions. It's unbelievable. How do you keep on top of that?
First and foremost, we always go back to our culture. And I told the board, I said, the first thing we got to do is we got to be of service. We got to malama. So that means that we do wellness checks. We call our members. What we did was we formed the executive board is the president, first VP, second VP, treasurer, secretary. And then we have 4 board members. So now there's 9 of us. So what we did was we took our membership and we divided it into 9. And we say, okay, you're in charge of these members. You have a hui of this much. And it is your kuleana to find out what they need. So we call everybody. And we say, we're doing a wellness check on you. How you doing? You never know what's on the other side of that phone call. And most of the time, all they want to do is talk. Because nowhere else can they go ahead and talk pigeon, number 1. Find out who else is doing what, number 2, and then find the transparency that we offer them, number 3, and reinstill the values that we all grew up with. And number 1, take care of your ohana,
yep.
Take care of your community, be whatever your form of religion is. But more importantly, do unto others like you would have them do unto you. That's part of malama, right? And, share aloha 24/7. And I tell them that all the time. And if you feel you cannot share aloha, then stay in your room. Recoup, reset, whatever it takes. Because there are times that you have to go ahead and recoup. And, over the last 4 years, there are many times that I had to do that. Fortunately, I have a very strong kane that, he's my pohaku, he's my strength, that I can go ahead and tell him anything and rant and rave and all that. And then he tell me, okay, you pao. How can you get mad at something like that? And after him comes my kids. I have 3 that live here. I have 4 mo'opuna, and I have 1 more due in about 2 weeks. Our first keiki kane. So at that point, and there were times my kids tell me, Mom, you stuffed Hawaiian culture down our throats till no tomorrow, and they'll roll their eyes at me and all that. And I tell them, one day you're going to go ahead and see the value of what I did. You may not see it today, but one day you will. And hopefully you'll be in that position that you can say, you know what, I'm pretty proud of what my mom
Well,
did.
like you said, we move away home. We move away from home, and we look to educators like yourself to obviously educate and teach. Myself, not necessarily lived in Hawaii, maybe 1 year out of my whole life, and my kids always get on me, hey man, Dad, you never sent us to Hawaii. We don't even know our family, our roots, and the language, And I was like, well, if you listen to the show or just hang around, the kapunas, they can enlighten you. But yet, I think they're taking it more of the surf, the doing things, and not necessarily just the talk story and learning about the culture. They want to do things like, literally, make a canoe, or make little war little spears or clubs that they've done in the past, like almost like a explorations camp, and yet and the opportunity has not really risen for kids out here, not that I know of. Maybe I'm just in the different circles of people, but our kids are like, Dad, you said we're Hawaiian, but we don't know anything about Hawaii and this and that, and I wish we had more people like you out there to educate. Now, as an educator and a teacher, Auntie, and now you're taking up new roles of other organizations as the Asian American Pacific Islander
Community Commission, yes.
Community Commission. Now, what's the job of that?
There were three things. In fact, it was reiterated with me about a half hour ago. What the three things were that the commission was created for. Number one was to show diversity in our community, okay, to represent our Asian American Pacific Islander community out here. So we did a feasibility study to say, okay, we had a survey done in the middle of the close down pandemic and everything. We had surveys done, and we would do it online. And then we had a company that go ahead, an analytical company that put together all the data that we gathered and say, okay, this is so much Filipino, this is so much Korean, this is so much Hawaiian, this is so much Tongan, and ironically, our community, the Native Hawaiian and Pacific Island, well, the Polynesian portion of it. When I reached out to them, yeah, Auntie, yeah, and no one really followed through, or if they did follow through, they didn't follow the directions. So there was not much representation from us. But in going forward, when I'm telling them, see, if we want to get, just like census, if we want to get recognized, you gotta stand up. You gotta have a voice. You gotta be represented. Because remember, and I tell them all the time, remember, you not only represent you represent all of us. Not only you. So be very mindful of what you do and what you post on social media. Yeah. I tell them, you want to get looked at, do it in the privacy of your house and don't take a picture. Because, those things become viral and it's a reflection on all of us. It's not only a reflection on you. And you may think that's funny, but, when you're looking at a community, we're going upwards of, they say anywhere between 30 and 65,000 of us. That's a lot of people. And do you want that stigma of what you did at this party reflect on the next 65,000 of us? Ole. So be very careful of what you do. Again, you mentioned about the younger generation. I'm a strong believer of mentoring. I learned that at Kamehameha, that you have to mentor. And what mentoring means is this. You have to malama what was started by your ancestors before you, teach it to the future generations so that they will go ahead and live it within their lifetime when you're getting old and become kupuna. Okay? And I feel very strongly about that. And over my tenure of 4 years, I had to find someone. It took me a long time to find her that will go ahead and holomua the cause of the Association of Hawaiian Civic Clubs, which is done by Prince Kuhia 100 years ago. And you know, when I took over the club, people were telling me, "Close, give back the charter." I said, when you give back the charter, that means all the work that was done here would be lost, would be puho. Is it my responsibility? I don't want to go ahead and do something like that. But what I do want to do is clean it up and prepare it for the generations, and they can go forward with it. And that's where the mentoring portion of it is. And you know, those leaders out there that don't think that it's important, we're not going to be here forever. Make sure that our vision is safe within the next ones and the one after that. You know, so that you have a continual visionary of the dream of why is the Hawaiian Civic Club here? Just like with AAPICC, why is the Community Commission here? Is it just to represent one entity, or is it to represent all? You know, and in doing that, you're fulfilling the dreams of not only your personal dreams, but you're setting it up for future generations. That's important.
Yeah, well, I was just kind of going over some of the conference calls that I've taken place or taken because of you folks as community leaders, and I've heard so many issues which wasn't even brought to my attention. Like I didn't know of hate crimes amongst racial. I never knew that because and I was jokingly saying because of my size I don't really receive that end, but obviously if you're Filipino or Thai or Korean or Japanese, it could be taken a different way. But with this pandemic, the blame is supposedly Asia, but yet we're all trying to get through it right now. With the pandemic going on, what is the biggest goal that you guys have for 2020 before the year ends?
Our biggest goal is to take care of our membership and sustain the programs that we've already started. We're looking forward to our first public appearance. Will be September 27th. It's going to be at a local restaurant here, and it's going to be a membership drive. So we've come up with an idea that, one second. Sorry, my phone ringing. Okay, what we're doing is on the membership drive, we want to create value with the membership. And in doing so, we're looking at community partnering with different businesses and say, if our membership was to walk in there with a membership card, would they be able to maybe get a free drink or 10% off, or, that way it patronizes them and it also creates value for our membership.
Oh, awesome.
And so in doing that, when I became Pelekikena, and this year, we now have 4 scholarships. We're very proud of them, okay? One is the PEF Public Education Foundation Scholarship, okay? That goes through CCSD. So any high school student that applies for scholarship, they can apply for our scholarship under PEF Public Education Foundation. The second one is an essay scholarship, and it's something that we do in-house, where we go ahead and we look at a Native Hawaiian person that will go, a graduate that is looking for assistance in scholarship-wise, okay? Then the other 2, okay? One is for Kamehameha School's Explorations Program. So now we're looking to the Okio and saying, okay, in order to get your child there, to go to Kamehameha to experience the explorations program. It cost them maybe $220 there, but the airfare to get there is expensive, right? So we will go ahead and help you pay for that airfare, but you got to have a confirmed date and letter from Kamehameha for that. And then the fourth scholarship is we either partnered it as a vocational, like someone who either got hurt on a job and are looking for another career to go into. We will help subsidize them there. Or say someone wanted to do a workshop. Say they wanted to go to a Kuana Torres workshop in California. We will go ahead and provide, and they apply for the scholarship and they get it. We will apply those funds towards that and just give them, and we're very proud of that. We never, when I came on, the scholarship program was suspended.
Oh, wow.
So now to go ahead and offer for that, especially at this time of a pandemic, yes, the Ho'olaulea was very helpful in helping us fund that. But now, without the Ho'olaulea, we've had to look at it, okay, we got to fundraise. We cannot depend on one festival to do it all. And in doing that, now we're looking at taking the Ho'olaulea and providing it as its own separate entity, because it should be. It should be its own separate entity.
Now, with all the information that you discussed with us, what can the people go and get this information or get a hold of you? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that just not necessarily they're not working or at home. They're looking probably to get into and be part, participate in certain organizations. Where can they get a hold of you, Auntie Dorinda?
Okay, well, they can go ahead and find me on Facebook, but more importantly, they can find Las Vegas Hawaiian Civic Club. We have a Facebook group. We have an Instagram account. We have a Facebook group. We have a Twitter account, or they can go on the web, and we are under www.Las Vegas, all written out, Las Vegas Hawaiian Civic Club.net. .net. Okay, and that is a cleaner format. It'll officially be launched in November, but it's up and running now. We're still tweaking it a little. We had a website before that was .com that was really too busy for our own good.
Yeah, I already know that.
Yeah.
I know that stuff, so it's crazy.
Yeah, so now we're just collaborating with community partners in order to keep a presence, service the community, and be a resource arm for everyone out there.
No, I'd like to thank you, Auntie Dorinda, for always taking time for me, especially every Sunday. If you guys want to tune in every Sunday at 2:30, Auntie Dorinda doing our daily Olelo on the Little Grass Shack at KUNV 91.5 FM or LGSvegas.com. Thank you very much, Auntie Dorinda. I look forward to talking to you more and with new and exciting things with the Las Vegas Hawaiian Civic Club, Auntie. Much more.
Malama pono. Thank you always for being a good supporter of us.
No, thank you very much, Auntie Dorinda. That's it, Dorinda. Thank you very much, everybody. And God bless, Auntie. Aloha.
Aloha. Hui ho.